Good morning again from Inverness station in a slightly windy day with an Inter7 City HST just rumbling along at the side of the station here. So yesterday I went to Wick, and on this little 2-day extravaganza of trips from Inverness, then I'm going to go west to Kyle of Lochalsh today. And a very good reason for doing them in that order is actually there are no trains to Wick today, as Storm Babet has hit Scotland today, and yeah, west is the only way we can go. When you get underneath the train shed, there's an awful lot of ScotRail trains cowering from the weather. There's a lot of trains being cancelled today, which is Thursday, and tomorrow Friday, so hopefully we'll have no problem as long as we go west. So it's definitely a case of seeing how this one goes. And here we are by the side entrance that also doubles as a vehicle dropping off point. And as we enter the station, here are all those trains all neatly packed into the Inverness station platforms. It's mostly a mix of Class 158s and Class 170s. Oh, and that Inter7 Cities HST that you heard earlier. The station features a bit of Inverness and Aberdeen Junction Railway memorabilia, celebrating the link being made to Aberdeen, and also a lump of granite marking the 100th anniversary of the link south to Perth. Anyway, it'll soon be time to leave, so let's step through the gloom and make our way to the 2-car Class 158. That, as we shall see later, is destined to put a lot more into this trip than is usual. So if you watched last week's video on the ride to Wick, you'll be very familiar with the interior of the ScotRail 158s. But first, while we're settling in, let's have a look at the route for today. We'll start off west along the Beauly Firth, and then, after a stop at Beauly, we'll head northward through Conan Bridge to Dingwall. Here, we part company with the Far North Line as we strike out westwards for Kyle of Lochalsh. After Garve, we skirt Loch Locharn, passing request stops at both the loch and then beyond at Arcanault, before we call at Arknasheen. Then it's up the valley of the River Bran until we pass into Glen Carron, to follow the River Carron through Arknashellach to Strath Carron. And it's here that we start the most famous section of the line as we skirt Loch Carron past Atterdale, Stroomferry, Duncraig, Plockton and Durinish, before popping out on the harbour side at Kyle of Lochalsh. And there's no prizes for guessing that this is going to be a slow journey. The 133 kilometres, or 82.5 miles, will take us 2 hours and 36 minutes, which is a very sedate 51 kilometres per hour, or 32 miles per hour. But in this weather, it isn't really about when we're going to get there, it's more like if. And although things may look gloomy, our 158 gets us away on time at 08:55. And, just like yesterday's ride to Wick, the first job is to cross the River Ness, followed by the Caledonian Canal. At the end of the Beauly Firth, it's our first stop at Beauly, which is one of those halt-type stations that can't even fit our short 2-coach train. OK, for new viewers, let's have a quick reprise of the ScotRail Class 158's features. Everything is standard class in a 2+2 configuration. There's USB power and the seats are comfortable enough, and I'm certainly not suffering today after having spent over 8 hours sat in them on yesterday's trip to Wick and back. Conan Bridge Station was reopened in 2013, and is another that sports the cut-down platform where just the middle doors of the train are accessible. But it is a good way of providing a station at reduced cost, certainly much better than nothing. The main station buildings at Dingwall are on the west side of the line, and they look really impressive for what I'm sure used to be a busy junction station. Oh, and it has a pub too. Immediately on crossing the River Peffery, we take the left-hand fork with just the merest glimpses of the Cromarty Firth in the distance. And then it's up the valley of the Peffery we go, with the old track clickety-clacking under our wheels. This seems to be a fairly laborious climb as we rise, sometimes at 1 in 50, up to Raven Rock, where it will then finally drop down towards Loch Garv and Garv Station itself. The line from Dingwall to Stroomferry was opened in 1870, although the extension to the Kyle of Lochalsh would have to wait another 27 years. And when we get there, I think you can see why there was such a delay. The whole line was also slated for closure by the infamous Beeching Report in the 1960s, but active and vocal public support for the line throughout the intervening years means that today we can still enjoy this remarkable journey. The station house at Garv, like so many others around here, looks to be a private house now. Garv was to be the junction for an extension northwards to the port of Ullapool, but the line was never built. Oh, do let me know in the comments if you think it's worth me taking the bus from Inverness up to Ullapool, because I do quite fancy doing that run. Beyond Garv, the line tracks the A832 as we enter the orbit of Loch Lochalsh. Now, the station that bears its name was relocated in 1954 to accommodate the rising waters of the loch, which was due to the building of a new dam at its southern end. Still, I'm not sure you'll hear any complaints, as the newly extended loch affords us some lovely watery views. Mind you, the wind is really picking up now and that water is looking pretty choppy. Noda requires these services of the loch's request stop, and so we press on to the banks of Loch Carron, if that's how you say it. We have to track the whole length of this loch before bridging the narrows between it and Loch Carron. And with the request stop at the end of the loch, as before, there's nobody wanting to trouble our train driver, and we breeze on through. From now on, we've got our last climb up the valley of the River Bran, and we'll be looking for a pass into Glen Carron and then our eventual descent towards the sea. We seem to be climbing higher and higher, and things seem to be getting bleaker and bleaker. This really is lovely, if slightly foreboding, moorland. I'm very pleased I'm enjoying the Class 158's air-conditioned comfort right now.
We are now approaching Inverness. Please mind the gap when alighting from this train.
Rather than now being a private house, the station building at Inverness appears to be some kind of community building. I might be wrong about that, so do let me know in the comments if you know better. The A832 that we've been tracking now heads off towards the northern coast. So drivers of both trains and cars that want to get to the Kyle of Lochalsh must now follow the route of the A890 towards the southwest. And still we climb as we skirt the edges of Loch Carron. And then the two peaks of, well, it's written down there even if I can't pronounce it, come into view. And it's also somewhere around here that we reach the top of the line. Loch Carron has two small islands at its core, which Google Maps claims are a nature reserve, which seems pretty plausible given how inaccessible they are. And here it is, the fledgling River Carron, that will soon become a wide and mighty sea loch. And we are definitely making a bit of a faster pace now, and the 158 is certainly cruising easily on the downward gradient. And it's lovely that we do get a chance to get a little bit of sun peeping through, even if it is weak and milky. It's clear from this view that we're going to have to squeeze between those two ranges of hills. And it is quite narrow and wooded, but soon we are through to the next station at Arknashelloch.
This is a request stop.
The shafts of the sun over Loch Dool are wonderful, and I'm suddenly buoyed up with the thought that maybe the weather won't be totally awful when we arrive at Kyle of Lochalsh. And here's our travelling fellow, the A890, snaking across our path as we both cling to the floor of the valley. On leaving Strathcarron, the train manager says to me, "Ooh, it gets really good from here." I'd better keep the GoPro running then, hadn't I? And here we go. The River Carron drains into the loch of the same name. You know what? I think it's time for that music to play. Stroom Ferry, as the name suggests, used to have a ferry that ran from here to the north side of the loch. And this also marks the 1870s original terminus of the line. So let's press on to see what 27 years of hacking into rocks can achieve. The wind is now really wicked, and the swell on the loch is testament to its strength today. And here we go through a man-made rock gorge. So this isn't just a scenic marvel. It's also a marvel of what 19th century men can do with picks and shovels, and probably a fair bit of explosive. Progress is slowed now as there's a general line speed here of 25 to 30 miles per hour. Although, in this weather, I reckon our driver is being even more cautious. The trackside vegetation is incredibly close to the train. This really is a magical stretch of line. All the hyperbole I've heard about it is really warranted. Oh, but then this happens. I'll turn up the train sound so you can enjoy it too. We've hit a tree that was lying right across the tracks. It seems we threw the tree clear of the line. It was maybe more a big branch than an actual tree, and so it's decided we'll go on. As you will see here, these cuts through the rock are just wide enough for a train, but no wider. But the payback is these wonderful views of the sea loch. Across this inlet is the main town of Ploughton. The station of Ploughton is slightly away from the town through more rock-sided cuttings. And at the station there are further lengthy phone calls before we are cleared to make our final run into Kyle of Lochalsh. And this final section clings tightly to the shoreline, giving us even more wonderful views. And still the train squeals around many tight curves at the shoreline, and it still squeezes through improbable gaps in the rock. At Urbiseg, the train has literally nowhere to go, and so the engineers constructed a curving causeway across the bay. I suppose the locals might have actually welcomed the free sheltered harbour that it created behind the rails. And I'm beginning to see, just like the far north line, the maintenance of this exposed railway is going to take an awful lot of effort. Of course, one of the main uses of the line was to connect people to the ferries that crossed to the Isle of Skye. Ferries had been plying their trade since about the year 1600, but all that came to an end in 1995 with the opening of the Skye crossing. And we are nearly at our destination on one of the most remarkable bits of railway line anywhere in the world, although there's still time for one more squeeze.
That's Kyle of Lochalsh. You're next. Final stop. I'd like to apologise for the slight delay to this service. Unfortunately, we did strike a tree earlier on, which led to a delay.
And at Kyle of Lochalsh, myself and fellow passengers get out to survey the damage. Of course, we now have the benefit of having recorded the front of the train at Inverness, so we can get a really good comparison. And you cannot come here without getting the archetypal shot from the road bridge of the station with Lochalsh and the Isle of Skye beyond. Wow, wasn't that a great run? Going down all those wonderful glens, past all the lochs, and then that final Loch Carron run along as we came into Kyle. Oh, and running over a tree on the way. So I suppose that's a little bit of Storm Babet. Yeah, there's the train there. It seems to be okay to continue after its little incident with the tree, and hopefully things will still be running through Storm Babet and I will be able to get back to Inverness a bit later this afternoon. But in the meantime, all that's left to say is yeah, if you've enjoyed this, then do consider subscribing and follow some more fun and antics on the trains and other types of transport as well, as I release a video every Friday with the odd bonus on a Monday as well. But in the meantime, from here at Kyle of Lochalsh, it's thank you very much for watching and goodbye. To let you know what happened next, well, this train was destined to only get as far as Plockton before it was held for 2 hours, whilst more fallen trees had to be cut away from the trackside. And then, just like the day before at Wick, I managed to be on the last train out at 17:13 before the storm closed the line. So thank you to the crew and the station staff who looked after everyone while we waited in the middle of a storm.